Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to Curious Kingdom. Today we are recapping modern fiction movie Samaritan. The film commences with the birth of twin boys, Samaritan and Nemesis, in Granite City. These boys possess extraordinary physical strength, akin to superhumans, and are deemed prodigies. One fateful day, while inadvertently hurting some criminals in the city, the twins instill fear in the townspeople, who begin to perceive them as a threat to their lives. Consequently, the townspeople gather one night and collectively set the twins' family home ablaze, resulting in the tragic death of their parents. Fortunately, Samaritan and Nemesis manage to survive the fire, but their experiences shape them into individuals with contrasting personalities and values. Samaritan grows up as a champion of justice, always protecting those in need, resembling a superhero. On the other hand, Nemesis harbors intense hatred and bears a grudge against the townspeople who killed their parents. Nemesis plots to engulf the entire town in a massive fire, subjecting them to the suffering his parents endured. Realizing this decision pits him against his twin brother, he takes the initiative to craft a powerful iron hammer fueled by his hatred. As night falls, Nemesis intends to detonate the town's power plant and initiate a colossal fire. However, Samaritan arrives to thwart his plans, making a confrontation between the two brothers inevitable. In their battle, Nemesis gains the upper hand due to his possession of the iron hammer, which he claims is the sole weapon capable of defeating Samaritan. The fight is abruptly cut short by a sudden and violent explosion, resulting in the demise of both brothers. Nonetheless, many believe that Samaritan survived the blast and chose to live in seclusion since only Nemesis's charred corpse and mask were found after the fire. The narrative shifts 25 years after the clash between Samaritan and Nemesis. Sam, a teenage boy, holds a deep admiration for the heroic and valiant acts of Samaritan from decades ago. Over the past year, he has suspected an elderly man of being Samaritan, believing the rumors that Samaritan survived and remains alive to this day. One of the men Sam suspects is Joe Smith, an apathetic elderly resident living in the apartment across from his own. Joe works as a repairman for broken electronics and lives a solitary life, also working as a garbage man in Granite City. Presently, Sam resides with his mother, Tiffany, who works as a nurse at a local hospital. One day, Sam encounters difficulty entering his apartment due to his mother's failure to pay the monthly rent. To pass the time, Sam decides to draw on the terrace, where his male friend Jesse invites him to partake in stealing some sodas and a coil of copper wire from an abandoned apartment. In need of money, Sam accepts the invitation, and they promptly infiltrate the targeted apartment. After procuring the copper wires, Sam and Jesse attempt to sell them to a junkyard operated by a man named Cyrus. Regrettably, they receive a meager sum, prompting Sam to reluctantly accept a job from one of Cyrus's associates, Rizat. That night, Sam's assignment involves distracting a shopkeeper so that Rizat and the others can seize a box of lottery tickets. Initially hesitant due to his lack of experience in such matters, Sam chooses to proceed out of financial urgency. Unfortunately, they mistakenly steal the wrong box. An infuriated Rizat falsely accuses Sam and refuses to pay him. In response, Sam vehemently denies the accusations and demands his payment. Observing the incident, Cyrus, amazed by Sam's bravery, offers him $100 as a gesture of appreciation. While perusing Sam's sketchbook, Cyrus realizes that Sam is a fan of Samaritan and reveals that he himself is a fan of one of the twins, Nemesis. Cyrus holds the belief that Samaritan only protects those who enjoy wealth while neglecting the suffering of the poor. Upon returning home in the evening, Sam witnesses his mother engaged in a confrontation with the apartment owner over unpaid rent. He promptly hands over the money from Cyrus to settle the rent, enabling them to regain access to their apartment. Once inside, Tiffany questions Sam about the source of the money, concerned that he may have stolen it. Sam attempts to convince her otherwise, explaining that he acquired it by selling some copper he found on the side of the road. The following day, Rizat and his friends launch a surprise attack on Sam, seeking revenge for the previous incident. Threatening him, Rizat demands the money that Cyrus gave Sam, warning of severe consequences if he refuses to comply. Realizing that Sam had no alternative but to flee swiftly in order to escape their pursuit, he arrived at the apartment yard just in time, narrowly evading Rizat and his accomplices who intended to harm him. Fortunately, Joe happened to be present at the scene and intervened, effortlessly overpowering and defeating them. Joe effortlessly repelled their attacks, even managing to catch Rizat's knife without a scratch. Later that afternoon, Sam used a pair of binoculars to observe Joe and noticed burn marks scattered across his back. This further solidified his belief that Joe was the legendary figure he had been searching for all along. The following day, Sam encountered Albert, a male writer renowned for being a devoted fan of Samaritan. Albert had spent the past 12 years compiling evidence from various articles and newspapers in an attempt to uncover Samaritan's whereabouts. Sam shared his suspicions about Joe, who resided across from his apartment, being Samaritan. Despite Sam presenting the bent knife as evidence, Albert remained skeptical and requested additional proof. Meanwhile, Cyrus and his accomplice continued scheming to steal Nemesis's mask from the police station, employing a specialized blackout bomb capable of causing a widespread explosion, disabling all communication signals and electricity within a certain radius. After Farshad, Cyrus's henchmen completed the preparations and gathered the necessary equipment and weapons, they hastened to the police station disguised as officers, allowing them easy access to the premises. Upon reaching their destination, they hurled the blackout bomb into the guard booth, disabling all communication signals and CCTV within the police station. Subsequently, they successfully breached the warehouse where all the confiscated evidence was stored, seizing Nemesis's mask and the iron hammer. Strangely, when Cyrus touched the iron hammer, Joe experienced a peculiar sensation, as if he were directly connected to the weapon. After successfully stealing Nemesis's mask and the iron hammer, Cyrus attempted to destroy Samaritan's mask using the Nemesis iron hammer. This incident stirred an unsettling feeling within Joe. The next day, as Joe left his house, Sam discreetly entered to investigate whether Joe was indeed Samaritan. Initially, Sam found nothing suspicious, but upon stumbling upon a collection of newspaper clippings detailing Samaritan's heroic deeds, he became convinced that Joe was the Samaritan. Sam decided to take the clipping book to show Albert later and prove the validity of his suspicions. Unfortunately, Joe soon arrived at Sam's apartment and informed Tiffany that Sam had taken his book, leaving Sam with no choice but to return it to him. The subsequent day, during their meeting, Sam confronted Joe about his extensive collection of articles about Samaritan. Joe admitted to being a fan of Samaritan, much like Sam. He denied Sam's speculations that Samaritan was still alive, firmly believing that Samaritan had perished in a fire decades ago. In the midst of their conversation, Joe was abruptly struck by a speeding car, propelling him onto the asphalt with considerable force. Astonishingly, Joe managed to rise and swiftly recover from the severe impact, despite the belief that no human could withstand such a blow. Concerned, Sam rushed to his aid, but Joe dismissed his inquiries, offering him some ice cream instead, displaying disinterest in discussing the matter further. Meanwhile, Cyrus initiated his plan to spread terror throughout the city center by detonating several shops using blackout bombs. He then rallied the remaining destitute residents of the city into an alley, declaring his intention to commence a new revolution, returning power to the oppressed. The crowd cheered and supported his actions, frustrated by the neglect they had endured from the city's government in times of hardship. Returning to Sam, who had recently begun shadowing Joe wherever he went, he persistently posed questions about Joe's past and the history of Nemesis. Initially, Joe felt uneasy and disturbed by Sam's persistent questioning, treating him like a reporter, as he had always cherished his peaceful, solitary life. However, as time passed, their relationship grew closer, and Joe gradually became accustomed to Sam's presence. He began to open up to Sam and contemplated sharing the fact that his strength was waning due to his advancing age. On the eve of their departure to their respective homes, Joe offered to repair Sam's broken watch as a token of their growing bond. The following day, while watching the news on television, Joe was taken aback and infuriated to see reports of rioting and looting committed by someone wearing a Nemesis mask. It shocked him that someone else was impersonating Nemesis and engaging in criminal activities across the city. Later that afternoon, Sam met Joe and immediately asked for his help in learning how to defend himself and fight. After Sam returned from school, Joe took him to the rooftop of the apartment building, where they practiced some combat moves together. Joe was impressed by Sam's agility, but acknowledged that Sam still needed to build courage and enhance his physical strength. Once their training session concluded, Sam attempted to strike Joe but ended up injuring himself due to his own strength. As Sam tended to his bruised hands with ice provided by Joe, he initiated a conversation about the death of Nemesis. Unfortunately, this topic angered and offended Joe, leading him to ask Sam to leave and return to his own home the next day. Cyrus, upon Sam's return, offered him several lucrative job opportunities that day. Sam was assigned to keep watch and signal with a whistle when the police arrived at their location. Cyrus began carrying out his usual routines, including bribing some police officers and betraying others. Witnessing these events, Sam felt intense fear and contemplated fleeing from that place. However, just as he was about to leave, he encountered Jesse being attacked by Razat and his companions. Sam had no choice but to fight back and protect Jesse, even though he ultimately suffered injuries and fractures from their assault. That night, Razat and his gang left Sam, who was helplessly unconscious, in the yard of Sam's apartment. At that moment, Razat was astonished to realize that the old man he had previously attacked was alive and unharmed. Joe immediately rushed Sam to the hospital and explained the circumstances to Tiffany. Meanwhile, Razat and his gang informed Cyrus about Joe's extraordinary abilities. Intrigued by this information, Cyrus ordered his men to bring Joe to their headquarters. The next day, Farshad and the rest of Cyrus's men covertly followed Joe from a distance. However, realizing that he was being pursued, Joe changed directions and led them into a narrow alley. He gave the members of Cyrus a chance to reconsider their actions, warning them that he could harm them. Yet, underestimating Joe and ignoring his warning, a confrontation became inevitable. Although faced with multiple adversaries, Joe proved capable of defeating them on his own. As Farshad prepared to detonate a blackout bomb, Joe acted swiftly to rescue a girl who was in imminent danger in that location. His heroic deed was captured on several residents' cell phone cameras, nearly exposing his true identity as a superhero. Subsequently, numerous media outlets began reporting on the reappearance of Samaritan in Granite City, connecting it to the emergence of Nemesis. Having long desired to leave behind his dark life, Joe intended to depart from Granite City and start anew elsewhere. However, moments before his departure, Sam approached him and shared information about Cyrus planning to detonate a bomb at the town's power plant. Sam urged Joe to join forces in order to stop Cyrus, believing that Joe was the only person capable of thwarting Cyrus's plans. Unfortunately, Joe refused and promptly expelled Sam from his apartment. The following morning, Sam sneaked back into Joe's house to retrieve the watch that had been left behind. Unfortunately, Cyrus and his gang arrived at Sam's apartment before Sam and his mother could escape. Cyrus apprehended Sam, intending to use him as bait to lure Joe to their headquarters. That evening, all of Cyrus's members and the city's criminals engaged in rioting, vandalizing shops and public property as a protest against the government. The police force was fully deployed to restore order, while some residents opted to flee or relocate to other cities. Similarly, Joe made plans to leave, waiting at the city station for his departing train. However, as the train was about to arrive, he unexpectedly heard an alarm from Sam's watch, which he had unintentionally brought along. Joe decided to delay his departure and return the watch to Sam. Upon arriving at Sam's apartment, he was taken aback by the chaotic scene, witnessing Tiffany lying unconscious after being assaulted by some of Cyrus's men. Meanwhile, Cyrus and his crew were poised to execute their plan, deploying blackout bombs throughout the city. However, before they could carry out their nefarious scheme, Joe intercepted them using his garbage truck. With brute force, Joe managed to breach Cyrus's headquarters and engaged in an epic battle against his men. Upon encountering Cyrus, Joe proposed a deal: Sam's freedom in exchange for a one-on-one duel with Cyrus. Rejecting the offer, Cyrus aimed to publicly humiliate Samaritan by defeating him. This triggered a memory in Joe, reminding him of a past incident when he attempted to save his twin brother, who happened to be Samaritan. Joe then unveiled his true identity as Nemesis, the individual once considered a criminal by the residents of Granite City. Cyrus, taken aback, struggled to believe that the person standing before him was Nemesis, the very person he had idolized. Soon after, an explosion erupted from Joe's garbage truck, instantly eliminating most of Cyrus's men. Following the chaos, Cyrus and Farshad hastily seized Sam, proceeding to enter the base and activate the blackout bombs strategically planted throughout the city. Meanwhile, Joe continued his relentless battle against Cyrus's remaining men, determined to prevent their escape via the elevator. In a final act of retribution, he pursued and eliminated Farshad by using the blackout bomb in his possession. After enduring a grueling fight, Joe eventually located Sam, who was trapped amidst a raging fire. However, just as he was about to rescue Sam, Cyrus emerged wearing a Nemesis mask and attacked him with the Nemesis iron hammer. In a critical moment, Sam managed to approach Cyrus and strike him, granting Joe an opportunity to attack from behind and hurl him into the flames. With Cyrus defeated, Joe swiftly guided Sam to leap onto the adjacent building, evading the imminent explosion at their current location. Subsequently, Joe disclosed his true identity to Sam, confessing to being Nemesis, who had been perceived as a criminal since Samaritan's demise. Overwhelmed by guilt, Joe resolved to live a peaceful life in seclusion. He implored Sam to help restore Nemesis's reputation, enabling him to emerge as a new hero fighting for justice in the city. Joe asserted that every individual harbors both good and bad within them, and it is our choices that define our paths. As media reporters arrived, Joe swiftly departed, leaving Sam to inform the press that the real Nemesis had returned, ready to safeguard the townspeople from evil. The film concludes with Joe watching Sam from the outskirts of the crowd, before heading off in the opposite direction. That's all for today, folks. Like, share, and subscribe for more such content. Curious Knight signing off. Stay safe, stay curious.